Never mind.
Okay.
We're recording. All right, we're going.
Just a quick recap for
Sorry.
the recording since we got started a little late. The bug 32256 was just past QA this morning, and that was a koha-US sponsored development on batch self-checkout. And then I believe Brendan was going to announce something.
All right, so about 20 minutes ago, I sent out an email to the Koha mailing list and the Koha dev list, and it is a proposal to move Koha into a Koha foundation. And so the process of this, let's see, I started in 2014, and we were looking to get Koha into the Fuerste-Henry library trust. So Fuerste-Henry is the first library that did Koha and everything like that. We were going to land all of the IP and the code and our different infrastructures into the library trust there, but then the trust crumbled about a week before we were finished. So we would have actually lost everything if we had followed through on that. So like it was a blessing in disguise, right? So what we started doing is we started doing some research. And it looks like what we're proposing is that we want to land Koha into the OLF, so the Open Library Foundation. And what it does is it provides like a legal identity for the Koha project. So then that way we can actually, it is US based, so it's a 501c3. So we can do fundraising internationally. We can also create a governance structure. So that would allow us to be able to have a little bit more control over a roadmap. We can have librarians out front steering some of our choices that we want to do Koha internationally. And I am here to answer any questions, or you can take a look at the email later. If one of you wanted to take it and forward it to the koha-US group, that would be very cool. And yeah, that's any questions on that, or probably like read through the email and then I'll join the next koha-US meeting, and if you have questions at that time I can answer. So
what's the overall feel from the koha community about that?
So we presented, so it was Jonathan Fields from PTFS Europe and myself that did a bunch of research, and we met with these different organizations and we found out about like the different costs and the different things like that. And so we presented this all at the Hackfest in France, and it was overwhelmingly positive. Everyone there was like, why don't we just do this now? We were like, well, there's legal things. We have to make sure that we have cross all of our I's and all that stuff, cross all of our T's. And that stuff. So like the reception there was unbelievably positive that we decided to go forward and present it to the whole community. So.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Brendan. I tend to agree that not having read through everything myself, I'll probably have more questions. So if you would like to join us again next month, then we'll definitely get that on the agenda so we can digest that a little bit and come up with some questions for you.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Any other announcements?
My announcement is nowhere near as exciting, but oh well. A couple months ago, I submitted a presentation proposal for the Special Libraries Association, which is coming up in July in Providence, Rhode Island. They turned down the live presentation, but said they would accept it if I turned it into a poster presentation. So I said absolutely. So now I have to come up with a Koha poster. My current title is Introducing Koha, the bestest and most wonderfulest open source ILS ever. So I will be asking for your input.
Get rid of the open source. It's the bestest and most amazing ILS ever, period.
Yeah, I was sort of dubious about open source. But...
How about the best ILS ever? And it's open source.
You don't like bestest and most wonderfulest, huh?
Yeah, and it's open source.
And I'm going to have to design it without making it an ad for any particular supporter, which is going to be difficult.
We'll be there too at SLA in Rhode Island.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah,
Thought you weren't. But congratulations.
Jesse and I will be there, both of us. Yeah, that's a drive for me. I like Rhode Island.
Yeah, it might be a train trip for me. Oh, and I'm also going to be presenting on workplace violence prevention, how medical librarians can assist, but that's not really COA related.
Still interesting.
Well, thanks for sharing, Fred. This is a lively announcement section. So we can keep it going if people still have lots of interesting things to share. Okay, well, I skunked that. Now we can move on to the agenda. Community Koha Community Challenge is officially beginning today. And you can sign up. I think Nate did a video too, right? I did a video. So I don't know if I've seen Nate's video. I just saw it briefly.
It's as hammy as you would expect, and there's more to come.
Just a few items on this. The idea of this is kind of two-pronged. One, most related to this group, is it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. Most of the money, you get a t-shirt, but most of the rest of the money goes towards koha-US, and that money will go into future developments. We already talked about how one development passed QA, so that means that the development committee will be working on putting together a vote for what the next one will be very soon. And so you should see that, but that money is funded by not just this, but in large part, this fundraiser that we do every year. So that's a good reason to do it. The other good reason to do it is that this is a wonderful time of year with, some exceptions here. I know in Colorado, we still get snowstorms even into May, but it's a wonderful time to be outside and active and do all that. So there's personal things at stake for everybody, but yeah, Elise just put the sign up in the chat. And so if you have not done so, I encourage you to do so, because good for you, good for koha-US. That seems like a win-win to me.
I signed up. I'll be back in a minute.
Jesse or Elise, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
As of 11:42 p.m. Eastern time, we have 46 people registered, and like 4 people registered this morning. So I think maybe our goal is to get to 50 by the end of the day. So fingers crossed, we'll have 50 people to kick off the challenge.
It's good. When I looked yesterday, it was at 39. So we're trending well. So
Yeah.
that's a good bunch of last minute signups. But yeah, not too late. I know, George, your comment about sleep here is that I sleep better when I have a full day of activity personally. So that aids my sleep.
One of the biggest like pieces of feedback we got throughout the last 3 years was, you had to manually enter your activities on the first platform that we used, Run Sign Up. So we really looked through a bunch of different options, and Challenge Hound allows you to sync with either your watch or your phone or whatever activity tracker you're using. So that's a real one-up this year, that you don't have to manually upload your activities. It'll automatically sync with one of your devices. So that's a huge win.
And we have some cool prizes this year. We have the grand prize winner, the person who logs the most activity, will get $100 Powell's bookstore gift card, which is awesome. And then we will also be giving out a $50 credit to our Threadless store. So that's pretty cool. And it's just a fun way to engage in the community and see what everybody else is doing and meet different library professionals from all over. So please join if you haven't, and tell your staff and friends and colleagues and everybody. We'd love to see you. Andrew, yes, you totally can.
Yeah, I was considering buying a Fitbit specifically for this so I could do the sync, but then I just didn't do it. So I will be manually entering still. That still is an option if you don't have fancy tools, and that's what I'll be doing. Okay, seem to have some syncing issues with Strava, but okay. Let's move on to some conference news. The conference schedule is largely all confirmed and complete. I think we might have one or two outstanding, Andrew, or are we completely confirmed?
I think we still have 2 folks who haven't officially confirmed.
Okay,
I
so
can
we
go
will
confirm those confirms.
We will track that down, but we are at the point where we have our conference meeting after this, and we're gonna get registration open as soon as possible after we meet. So you will be able to register for this lovely conference we're gonna have in Round Rock, Texas in August. So it's looking good. Rhonda's put in a lot of work on having accommodations set up and activities, fun activities for us to do while we're in town. So it's looking like things are coming together, and we're looking forward to getting registration opened ASAP so everyone can sign up. But many people here had submitted presentations, so thank you for doing that. But I think we've got another really interesting, varied program this year. So I'm looking forward to getting that out there to share with everybody. As Andrew indicated, it's mostly locked down. So we'll get it all the way locked down, but I think we're at the point where we can safely share who's going when, what the topics are, and all that stuff. So that will get out this week. We'll make sure we get that out this week. Any questions on the conference in general?
Is a registration opening this week as well?
Yeah. So we're gonna have it. We'll get an email out, and registration will be open. You'll be able to see the conference schedule. There's already some information posted at on the website, but we're gonna make sure all that's ready to go. So people know what they're can look forward to, all the different things we've got set up. So
our registration cost is going to be the same as last year.
I don't know if we've officially decided that, but I would say that I don't think we probably would see any cause to do anything radically different. So yes, I anticipate the costs will be the same. We'll officially decide that at the committee meeting today. But I don't really, unless there's some very important information that I don't have that would indicate a change, then I think we would probably do what we've done before. Which I don't remember what that number is.
Bob, we budgeted the budget on those registration costs. So yeah, the same registration costs.
Yeah.
I know that we've changed some things with just koha-US registration in general, but that shouldn't have any effect on this.
Any other conference questions? Okay. Let's move on. George had a topic he wanted to address about koha community chat and Slack. So I'll turn it over to him.
Well, I just put a link in the chat to the new Koha community chat server. So we have had Slack in some form or another for quite a while. When we first became a nonprofit affiliated with TechSoup, we added Slack because it was free and it was super easy to add. And it was mostly used by the board. And then the idea came along that we should get everybody into Slack. We should get the whole koha-US group into Slack. And then we talked about different things. And in the community, there had been a discussion of we should have wouldn't it be great to have a Koha community Slack server? And so Christopher and I created the one that we're on now called Koha Community Slack. And now the Koha community has gone out and created this Mattermost server, not Slack. Mattermost is almost identical to Slack. It's just that it's open source. And they've moved, I don't know how many of you have ever been on the IIRC, but the IIRC discussions have, the number of people using the IIRC has fallen and fallen and fallen and fallen and fallen over time. And if you look at the chat logs for the last 4 or 5 days, there's nobody on there at all anymore. And so the Koha community has created this Mattermost Slack. It's like Slack. The website's there. And if I had realized that the community was going to be adding this server, I would have never said to Christopher, why don't we just create a Slack community like this? And I just would have waited and we all could have gone there. So that's my proposal, is let's just abandon Slack completely and get as many of the people that are on our Koha community Slack, get them over to this Mattermost server. And so that's what I wanted to talk about here. I've already talked in Mattermost. I said, if we moved over here, could we have a channel if we needed it? And right now, this is the kind of thing that, having a foundation and setting up rules would help with. There's no mechanism right now. There's no agreement on how to create a channel or who gets to create channels. But it wouldn't be a problem if we needed something like a channel. So that's just what I wanted to propose, is that we all get off Slack. We all go to chat.koha-community.org and move all of our communication there. And one of the reasons I think this is a great idea is, one of the things I'm always worried about with Koha is that there aren't enough librarians talking to the core developers group. For many people working particularly at public libraries, I have never been in a situation where I had any control over what kind of software was on my computer. I think one of the reasons that the Koha community has resisted Slack is because it's not an open source product. Mm-hmm. And so us leaving Slack behind and moving over to Mattermost, I think, just makes sense. It would get librarians into better communication with the core elements of the community that were there's kind of this barrier between us and them now. So
I would add that, I think that koha-US, attempting to get a Slack channel open for the Koha community was a good first start. And I think that it also showed to the community that there was a desire to move to a better platform. So I think there was a positive out of that. And while it's hard to, establish something and then see everybody wanting to move on, I get it, especially since Slack recently made some changes that are restricting history, which is not fun. So it's nice to to be in an environment that's less restrictive. So, you know, if we can get the the best of both, yeah, I think that this is probably a good move in the long run. I was a little annoyed at first because of the way it was being handled, but I think all in all, it's a good direction.
Yeah, two things to add is with Mattermost, they the company that writes the software, they will provide it to 501c3s for like $250 for 3 years of service. Currently, it's being hosted by PTFS Europe, and eventually, like when we have a Koha Foundation, the idea is that that would move into the foundation, and then we'd be able to take advantage of that actual support from the company on all the connections that we want. And then the biggest point is that Slack, we lost the history, and that was really annoying, and it's very cost prohibitive for these different user groups or communities to run. Just adding that.
You know, and it does make sense too. I mean, you know, you want to retain the history, but the history retention does cost because, you know, you're taking a drive space somewhere for it.
Brendan, do you anticipate ByWater moving their partners chat over to Mattermost?
Yes.
Cool. That's my only like minor complaint here is it's frustrating to use two programs that look almost identical.
Yeah. Hopefully ideally we can have the Mattermost channel, and then you can choose, like in Slack, how you can join different groups. Hopefully the same idea.
Cool.
Yep.
And I assume if ByWater is going to move over there, that maybe Aspen might move there as well.
Yes. Yep.
So what's George, what's the next step then? What happens?
Well, I created the Koha community Slack, but I no longer have control over it. The koha-US administrator is the owner of that. What I recommend, which that happens to be Christopher at the moment, but what I recommend is that we just post something in Slack that says, hey, everybody move over here. We're going to shut this down in, like, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, come up with some kind of a time frame and say, you know, this is where we're moving to. And this is the timeline to get off of here before we shut it all down. Because I'm not hearing anybody objecting to this idea.
No, and I don't think you will. I do think we should, just for formality's sake, discuss this at the board meeting next week, just to make sure that everything is aligned as far as the board goes. But I mean, this seems like a pretty obvious move to me. So we can talk at the board meeting about how we're going to operationalize that a little bit as well, and let people know where to go and all that, and then decide when to pull the plug on Slack. But makes a lot of sense to me. But we'll have that discussion. So if anybody has any feedback where you're thinking this doesn't make sense to me for some reason, definitely either share that now, or you can email me or someone on the board so we can get that viewpoint represented.
George, I will help you with getting that channel created for having like a koha-US channel, and then let's get together and talk about how we can start inviting people to the community Mattermost to get some more bandwidth there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the notion of everything being on the same, and the international community being there as well. Okay. Thanks, Ed, for sharing that. It sounds like we should be able to recreate whatever you're doing over on Mattermost, but that's a good thing to consider.
that was how the discussion of channels came up on Mattermost, is we recently had a Kansas Koha meeting. And I said, we should, talk about creating a Kansas channel on there. And then I got in a whole long thread of discussion on Mattermost with a bunch of people in the community. So
North Central Kansas just signed for koha with ByWater. So
some of them were at the Kegger meeting. So
Kansas has pretty much been annexed then.
Still
we're working on it. We've got 3 of the 7 regions have a koha shared catalog, and we've got a small partial one and a 4th, but moving this other one, we'd be at the over 50% mark at that point.
Sandy had wonderful things to say about everyone in Kansas, and especially Jason. She was very thankful that you answered lots of her questions, so thank you.
Yeah, we weren't going to say bad things about koha.
Okay, any other discussion on this before we move on? All right, one of the things that if you've been a regular attendee of the general meeting, we've tried to do is have a variety of speakers talk about various aspects of koha. And sometimes we've had guests from vendors, and in this case, we aren't doing that. We're just, Christy volunteered to do something really short. So if anybody ever wants to just, their cool idea they want to get out there and it doesn't amount to submitting a presentation proposal, we can definitely do that during the general meeting. So we're going to do one of those right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Christy.
All right, thank you. So just by show of hands on the screen, how many people are already using the news tool in koha? Anyone? Oh boy, a good amount already. Well, so some of this might be a little redundant, but just to give you a little bit of background for those of you that don't know me, I'm Christy Kruger. I'm with the Cuyahoga County Public Library in Northeast Ohio. We have been live on koha for about 8 months, since September of 2023. So because of that, we are still communicating changes. We haven't been on koha for all that long, so we're still communicating changes to our workflow or enhancements that have been pushed out to our staff. We are a 27 branch system, and we have several hundred branch staff, so that's a lot of people to try and get the word out. So any way we can take advantage of that, we try, and we've started using the news tool in koha to do that. So I'm going to try sharing my screen, and it's probably going to blow up in my face because that's how Zoom likes to be. But okay, so my guess is you can see just my, if I try and do it as a presentation view, let's see if that blows up. Great. And it didn't do anything. It stopped everything. Okay, so apologies on, oh, here we go.
There we go.
But you can see the presenter view, not my screen. Dread. Okay. Display settings, swap presenter view. How about that? Looking a little better?
It was actually better the other way.
It was better the other way?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I think this is the presenter view and the other one wasn't.
Right.
You're kidding me. Okay. How about now?
There. Yep.
All
That's
right.
good.
Now I know for next time. All right. So if you haven't used the koha news tool, when you log in through your staff view in koha, you'll see a tools section, and then you can click on that, and you'll see under additional tools, there's the option to have news. So when you click in there, you'll see anything that you already have drafted. And I mention this because we're supported by ByWater. If you are supported by ByWater, they may have put a few general things for when you went live that might still be there, some news items. So this tool lets you see all of the news items that are out there already. So what you would do is you would go up to add a new one, you would go to new entry here. And then once you do that, you get this nice screen that lets you pick whether or not you're going to display on staff interface, OPAC, or both. We don't use the OPAC, so all of the news postings that we're doing in Koha are intended for our staff, so we always just use staff interface. I've never used the limiting to library, but say you wanted to make a note just for one branch, like the bathroom is broken, perhaps that's the use that you could use. We always just use all libraries. You can also set the publication date and expiration date, so you can set and forget. So if you only want this to run for a week, or you want it to start posting on Sunday when you're not in the office, you can arrange for that as well. You can also make it appear in a position. This is helpful if you've got more than one news posting going at a time. So if you want the one you're working on now to appear at the top or the bottom, you can arrange that by adjusting the position. Oops. So then down here, you get a nice WYSIWYG editor, and you can edit the text and, the color of the text, the background color of the text. You can hyperlink text. So it's basically like any HTML editor that you would see. The kind of really cool thing that I like is the emojis that you can enter. I use those liberally. You can enter tables and pictures as well, but because you are limited to the left-hand navigation side of the home screen and that container is only so wide, I don't use those ever. So here's an example of one that we use to communicate a change to our ILL, our interlibrary loan workflow. So this is something that happens outside of Koha, but because it interfaces with Koha and because our staff needed to know about this, we put a news posting up for a couple of weeks to let them know that, hey, now you can do this. You couldn't do this before, but this is pretty cool. And you can have your customers request items this way, in addition to using their barcode. So that's one way we used it. One other way that I wanted to share that I thought was cool for how we used it was we wanted to get people engaging and discover this section of real estate on Koha. So I just snuck a little announcement that said, hey, thanks for reading this news section. If you email me within this time frame, we'll put your name in a drawing for a prize. So that was pretty cool. I got over 90 people to email me back for the drawing. So if you're looking for a way to get your staff to engage with this resource, that's one way that we did it here. That's all for me. Does anyone have, I imagine no one has questions, but thanks for listening.
I will insert I have a little bit of jQuery that I'm adding to the library to share, but I did write a little bit of jQuery that moved the news panel over to the right-hand side, because right now on the OPAC, I should say, because right now on the OPAC, it sticks it right up at the top and pushes all your content down. And it's nice having it over on having the option to have it over on the right side, so you can still keep your content in place. So I'll share that on the jQuery.
Cool.
I was just thinking that on the staff side, specifically for staff, since we don't use the Koha OPAC, but we could, particularly since Monday Minutes recently has been more basics, that'd probably be a good thing to have a weekly posting of that up on the news for our staff that could use probably some reminders on some of those basic things. So I think I might put something like that together sometime this week. It was just a good reminder of all the different things you can do with that.
Yeah.
You could even set up rotating reminders of this week we're focusing on circulation, this week we're focusing on something else.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Christy. We are now to our open discussion portion of the meeting. So this is where we can talk about whatever. A lot of this becomes people sharing particular bugs and things like that that they want comments on or want people to take a look at. I am particularly interested in a bug that just passed QA during this meeting that I'm excited about. So I've got that. I'm gonna share that in the chat. This is this will give make it so when something becomes paid for, it changes the loss status to that paid for status. So that doesn't have to be done manually because that seems like kind of a thing that people often forget. So I was pretty excited to get the email during the course of this meeting that this had passed QA, and hopefully we'll cross our fingers gets on that release and we don't have to wait another cycle for it. But that was particularly exciting to me.
That's a great one. I was halfway through getting ready to test it, to sign it off when I had to leave to come to this meeting, and I was really cranky about it. So I'm glad that that Martin and Nick did that while I was here.
Does anybody else have any
Can you post the
bugs?
link to that?
I did.
Did you?
$22740.
They're not here, but I want to thank community members Brendan from Clams and David from oh God, Ed, what library do you work at? It's an M. McKinney. Oh,
Yes,
it just like
there
fell
you
out of my head.
go.
Thank you. I want to thank them for helping me invaluably with getting my Koha to fire confetti cannons full of emojis when you open your patron record. It's really stupid and it makes me so happy. And I couldn't have done it without
I
them.
got tired of it.
It is kind of annoying. It was happening on the checkout page as well as the details page, and we had to adjust that.
So
Confetti
Jason
that shoots
didn't help
every
you
time
with
you
that?
check. I don't think Jason had a hand on that ball. He let
Because
somebody else be
he's
silly.
famous for his confetti.
If there are sharks or pizza in the confetti, you know it was Jason.
It's Brendan from Clams. Brendan Waller.
Correct.
Okay.
What other bugs have people been looking at?
Well, excuse me. I'm having a weird situation. I posted it to koha-US and the general koha list a couple of weeks ago, and no one responded. So it could be that I am the only person in the universe that is having this problem. But okay, I have notices set up to send out a notice when the item is due. And the following day, they get another notice, which is all blank. It's using the same template. I check that. It's an enigma. You think there's any point in filing a bug report, or is this just something that no one else can replicate? I'm confused.
And it's sending the same type of notice. It's not trying to switch between pre-due and due or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
It has the same template. Say if this is all blank, disregard it. We're working on it.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Also, I think the log file created something like a 50 gigabyte file, which least on my instance, if you ran out of space, start getting a 500 error for everything. That's kind of a mess to deal with. But I'm not worried about that this time.
Are you using auto renewal at all?
Nope.
Can't say I've come across that one, Fred.
Yeah, well, I'll keep trying to figure it out, and if I find out why it's happening, well, then I'll know something.
Well, we still got 15 minutes if people want to share things. Otherwise, we can always end early. Nothing wrong with that. But usually there's a few more people that are unhappy about this bug or that, or want to see some movement on it.
I came across a bug earlier this week that's sort of just a little annoying thing, where the patron can update their personal details from the OPAC, but if they just submit the change without making any changes, it creates a blank approval denial thing on the staff side. And I found a bug about that. I put that in chat.
Interesting. Yeah.
I've been seeing that for a couple of years. Is that something that just started for you, Jason?
Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
And it's just one library. It's a feature that's not used widely, but somebody's done it. And then I got the questions about like, what does that mean? And I went to look in the database, and it doesn't seem like there's an easy way to tell what the old value was versus the new value. But I think it was just submitting blanks anyways.
I think on ours, it's coming from Aspen when somebody makes a blank change in Aspen or doesn't change anything but saves the account.
We've had the same problem for a while too, and I always just tell staff, everybody here knows to just deny those changes, and it happens like maybe once a month. So I've never really thought it was that big of a deal.
I think I had noticed that a while back and set some jQuery up so people couldn't do that.
I just passed it to Nick and Kyle and to Moss. I'll see if they jump on it.
I put a bug in chat that I'm excited about. Got signed off yesterday. This is a change to action logs to make them start storing what you have done as a diff, which means, so this bug is specifically for the holds log to say, like, when a hold gets edited, we will save what the hold used to be and what the hold is, so you can look at the action logs and know exactly what was changed. It's great. It's so cool. And this first step is just for the holds log, and then but it's adding a general mechanism for this to then be applied to other logs. Yesterday, I was attempting to write a report that would tell us all the items that went from a specific lost status to not lost today. That's currently like just about impossible. It's pretty stupid. And this bug will make it so much easier. I came up with a cool, silly workaround, but I would be happy to not have a cool, silly workaround.
I would imagine it doesn't highlight things like that, but I'm wondering if the report viewer could incorporate something to highlight the changes between the two, the differences between the two.
I think the action logs viewer will give you that because it does some diff views already for some of the system preferences. So hopefully, yeah, that'll give you an easy, way to look at sort of what those changes were.
That would be helpful because, just, what is being logged in itself, sometimes that can be quite detailed, and it's like you have to look through it meticulously to figure out what the change was at all. But but you know, having the two differences is great, but that's more to swim through. It's, you know, if you can see what those specific changes are between the two, that's going to be huge.
Yeah. The borrowers log already does this as you're editing patron records. And yeah, it's really easy to write reports for, like to figure out who's changed their sort to value that says whether or not they want to get the newsletter. It's like a good JSON extract report to grab the, yeah, man. Topics for future conversation in a reports channel. Hooray. Maybe join the systems administrator SIG one of these months and we'll talk about it.
I just have to praise our community for some of the things that I've been seeing going through bugs lately. In particular, I know that there's a bug out on reports and incorporating selecting multiple options and parameters. That's going to be huge, and that was because of discussion in the community and say, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could do this kind of thing? And then the other thing that's been phenomenal is the templates for reports. That's a game changer. And you know, that was because of a library, if I remember correctly, a library wanting to try to do something different. And it's just it's great when people get inspired to do something and then it becomes something that gets shared with everybody else, because it's like, you have a great idea, great, don't hoard it, let's spread it around, and it becomes something absolutely wonderful. The reports template, oh, that has been a game changer for us, because it freed us from having our hands tied with certain reports, and we were having to do we were still using some access and tying that in with ODBC to incorporate that into nice looking reports. And then that came out, and then Jason's inspiring everybody with his brilliant work. So good job, everyone.
Well, in the same vein, I'm looking forward to the custom slips, which will be in the next time we upgrade. Will be like the custom reports. There'll be the ability to add to that list of the print drop down on the patron record to just put whatever slip you want to print in there and customize those. I'm looking forward to that. So.
There are some great pieces coming together here. I'm seeing some discussion about reports and slips and some of the modifications that George, you and I have shared already in our videos. But there's lots of little pieces coming together. I want to see us be able to use the templates to create these custom notices that, like, oh, this person wants, everything they owe. Well, we can have a customized report that's formatted nicely, and then we don't have to just print it off. Maybe we have the option of taking that content and shoving it in an email and emailing it instead. So, there's lots of little pieces slowly coming together to, really make this super flexible and give us more options than we had before.
All right, does anybody else have anything else they want to close on?
Well, I'd like to say that 4 people from this meeting have already joined Mattermost. So way to go, everybody.
I'm trying to, but have to try installing it from the Ubuntu command line, which is a little trickier.
All right, well, our next meeting will be May 5th. I believe we will have a guest, Katrin Fisher will be joining us, talk about her role.
June.
Oh, yeah, June. Yeah, it is May. Surprised I don't do that more often these days. Yes, June 5th, correct. It would be silly to have another general meeting in 4 days. We'll do it next month. Yes, happy May Day. I don't know how people celebrate May Day, but enjoy
Usually
it.
by riding in tanks down the streets of Moscow.
See what my afternoon looks like. All right, thanks for everybody's attendance and participation. Another great meeting. See you in a month.
See you later.